One of the moves that Notre Dame made this offseason was moving defensive line coach Mike Elson, who was the associate head coach, to recruiting coordinator. And we've seen an immediate shift in philosophy for Notre Dame, and it's paying off in a big way. Notre Dame is doing several things different, and we'll get into each of those here over the next few weeks. But one thing that is relevant today is Notre Dame's new pot of gold push on social media. Now, there's a lot more than just the social media push behind this, and that's really the important part. But to begin, let's just kind of take a quick look at that. This is an example of the social media push that we're seeing. This is a tweet that was sent out by Sonny Styles, who is one of the top 2023 safeties in the country, one of the top 2023 players in the country. He's also the younger brother of Notre Dame signee Lorenzo Styles. That's one example of it. Here's an example of how the tweets looked. Let's take a look at another one. This is from Javant Brown, who is a top 100 recruit. As you can see there, he received an offer from Notre Dame. And that's really what is behind this push from Notre Dame. It's clever. It's called the Pot of Gold. It's on St. Patrick's Day. This is something they teased out on Monday. But what it is Notre Dame is making a hard push for a number of 2023 recruits. And they sent out a lot of offers today to 2023 players. Now, first of all, Notre Dame just doesn't wake up on a Monday and say, hey, let's do a pot of gold and send out a bunch of offers on Wednesday. It's St. Patrick's Day. What else are we going to do? This is about Notre Dame having a plan, and a plan that took time to carry out. And a big part of that is beyond just the social media push is they had to do background on a lot of these players. You have to find out about academics. Is this guy we can even recruit for Notre Dame? And so it took time, and this is the culmination of that time. But here's why this matters. Yes, it's creative and the social media is fun, but more practically, this is about a shift in philosophy that is about Notre Dame becoming more involved with top players early. One of the criticisms I've had of Notre Dame for the last decade was they were often way too late getting involved with top players. And when you're talking about the best of the best, those program changers, those guys that can close the gap between you and Clemson and Alabama and Ohio State, the teams that are competing for and winning championships, you have to get involved early if you're Notre Dame. You can't be the 15th, 20th Power 5 program to get involved with a kid. And what we're seeing from Elston is an understanding that this is a very important part to taking that next step as a program, especially as a recruiting operation program. Notre Dame has to be more early. They have to be more engaged. They have to be more creative to get that 1, 2, maybe 3 or 4 prospects in each class that they're currently not getting. And those are the players that are going to determine whether Notre Dame remains a really good team, but not a legitimate title contender, or a team that can close that gap and take that next step. So seeing this push, and when you go through the long list of players that got offered today, it's not just local kids or players that have been on campus before. A big chunk of these are some of the nation's best players. And Notre Dame has already started this 2023 push even before the pot of gold came out. We've seen some of the nation's best players already getting offers. There's a cornerback named A.J. Harris from the South who, come to find out, his dad's a big Notre Dame fan. Well, he's one of the top 30, 40 players in the country. Notre Dame has already offered him as a sophomore. That is so huge that they're doing that. And so to see this push is very, very important for Notre Dame. To see them getting involved with these top players, to see them making this push is really just another sign that they do understand that they're not there yet and they need to get there. And this push from Elston to go along with other things that we'll dive into more, like more California recruiting, more Southwest recruiting. Texas is becoming a much bigger factor for Notre Dame as far as pushing out offers. We've already seen them get a commitment from a 2022 running back, Jadarian Price, who's from Texas. So we are seeing a shift in strategy, and that is so important for Notre Dame. And it's a great sign to see that Mike Elson is coming in and making immediate changes. Not that Brian Polian didn't do a good job. Notre Dame has certainly been a very steady recruiting operation under Brian Polian, but Mike Elson is looking to take it to that next level. And you've got some great assets as if you're Mike Elson. You've got Marcus Freeman. You've got Mike Mickens. You've got some coaches that are getting after it. And you've got a stretch of play on the field where Notre Dame has been to the college football playoff 2 of the last 3 years. You have to take advantage. You have to strike while the iron's hot, so to speak. And that's what we're seeing from Mike Elson. So while the social media push is creative and interesting and I like it and it's good, it's how to initially grab attention from players, it's beyond that. It's a shift in strategy, and that shift in strategy is going to get Notre Dame at least in the ball game with some of the nation's best players that they really weren't in before. They were often so late with a lot of these top players that the kid would be excited about the offer, but they never became a serious contender. They're already a serious contender with some of the top 50 players in the country that I've seen. And one of the players that they offered today, and I'm going to get a little bit more into him in a little bit, they offered Arch Manning, who's the nephew of Peyton Manning, the son of Cooper Manning from the Manning legacy. He got an offer today. But there's a quarterback from Detroit named Dante Moore, and I'm going to have something up later this week where I'm going to look at his film and talk about him as a prospect. He is big time. He's ranked as the number 12 player in the country by 247 Sports, threw for about 2,700 yards and 33 touchdowns as a sophomore. Exciting electric thrower. So I love this push by Notre Dame. I think it's going to pay off in a big way, and it starts to get you excited about what this 2023 class can be. But of course, Notre Dame is still making a push for the 2022 class, and we expect some movement there soon as well. So make sure you stay locked into irishbreakdown.com for all the latest. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, pretty please. Hit that notification button. And wherever you listen to podcasts, make sure you find the Irish Breakdown podcast, subscribe to that. Give us a 5-star rating. It's much appreciated. We want to try to get our content in front of as many people as possible, and you're going to be able to help us make that happen. So thanks for joining the show. We'll be back with you very soon. Make sure you're on the lookout because if you're listening to this on Wednesday, St. Patrick's Day, we're going to have a live podcast later tonight to talk a little bit about some news that we expect to happen in recruiting. So stay locked into irishbreakdown.com, and we will talk to you again soon.